They expected an army. Humanity sent a single ship instead. The War Council chamber of the Galactic Alliance was never silent. On normal days, it was filled with the sound of voices, the hum of holoprojectors, and the constant buzz of nervous energy. But today it was different. Today silence ruled. Every delegate, every commander, every officer stared at the glowing map above the central table. Red lights blinked across the star system, marking enemy movements. The enemy was late, but they were coming. Everyone knew it. The Alliance had prepared for this day for years. Fleets had been gathered, planets fortified, and soldiers trained. Billions of credits had been spent to build the perfect defense. The enemy was ruthless, and they showed no mercy. When they came with fire and numbers. Always numbers. So the fleets waited. On the dark edge of the system, thousands of alien warships stood ready. Cruisers, battleships, carriers, an endless wall of steel and power. Their weapons could turn a planet into dust within hours. Confidence filled the ranks. The Alliance believed they were ready for anything. But what they saw next shattered that confidence. A sensor alarm echoed through the chamber. Technicians rushed to their stations. Data scrolled across screens. Something was coming through the void. Everyone leaned forward. Finally, the enemy was here. And then the data came in. Not a fleet. Not an army. Not a storm of fire. It was one ship. The council chamber filled with confused voices. Commanders shouted over each other. Some laughed, thinking it was a mistake. Others thought it was a trick. But the data was clear. A single vessel was approaching at sublight speed. Old design, small hull, not even carrying heavy weapons. The commander of the Alliance fleet squinted at the readings. His voice was heavy with disbelief. One ship? That cannot be right. Check again. The technicians checked again. The answer did not change. One ship. It moved slowly, almost lazily, across the dark void. No fleet followed. No hidden army appeared on the scanners. Just one ship, flying alone. The aliens laughed. "This is their invasion?" one general sneered. "This is an insult." But the laughter did not last. The single ship moved with a strange calm. No panic. No fear. No hesitation. It did not change course even as thousands of weapons locked onto it. It came closer, steady as a heartbeat, like it knew something no one else did. The commander leaned forward again. "What species is this?" The answer came quickly. A name that many in the chamber had only read in old files. A species barely known, considered weak and primitive by most galactic records. Human. The word rolled through the chamber like a shadow. The commanders exchanged uneasy looks. Some had heard whispers about humans. Stories told in the far reaches of space. Stories that sounded like myths more than history. One ship defeating many. Soldiers fighting even when hope was gone. A species that refused to surrender. But myths were not supposed to enter real battles. The human ship grew larger on the screens. Its design was old, battered, and ugly compared to the sleek warships of the Alliance. Scratched armor, patched hull, mismatched plates. It looked like a relic, something that should have been sitting in a museum instead of entering a war zone. And yet, it kept coming. The alien commanders waited for it to stop, to turn, to show fear. But it never did. It came closer, engines burning softly, shields glowing faintly, as if the ship carried the weight of a secret. Inside the human ship, silence filled the bridge. A lone captain stood at the center, his hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the stars. Around him, a small crew worked calmly, no fear in their movements. They knew what they were walking into. They knew the numbers. They knew they were alone. But none of them looked afraid. The captain's voice was low, steady, almost cold. "Hold course. Do not answer their signals." The crew nodded. They did not need to ask questions. They trusted him. Outside, the alien fleet tried again and again to open communication. Messages flooded across space. Demands for surrender, warnings, threats, laughter. The humans answered with silence. And silence was worse than any threat. The alien commanders grew restless. Why was the ship not slowing down? Why was it not afraid? Why send only one? Paranoia spread through the ranks. Was this a trap? Was the single ship hiding something? Was there a fleet cloaked behind it? The commander slammed his fist against the table. Enough! Destroy it. Show these humans what happens when they mock us. Thousands of weapons turned toward the single ship. Missiles, lasers, railguns, enough firepower to break a moon. The countdown began. And still, the human ship did not move. The captain stood tall on his bridge, eyes glowing with the light of the stars. His voice was calm, almost whispering. They expect an army. They will learn the truth soon enough. The crew smiled. The alien fleet fired. A storm of light and fire crossed the void. Explosions brighter than suns filled the darkness. The human single ship vanished in the blaze. The alien commanders leaned back, satisfied. Too easy. Too fast. The chamber filled with laughter again. But then, the laughter stopped. The fire faded. The smoke cleared. The human ship was still there. Not a scratch. Not a mark. It floated calmly, as if nothing had happened. Its engines still burned. Its course never changed. Silence filled the council chamber. Silence filled the fleets. Thousands of alien eyes widened in shock. One ship had survived the firepower of an entire armada. And the humans had not even fired back. The captain's voice echoed once more inside his ship. Prepare to begin. The crew obeyed. Calm, cold, certain. Far away, in the council chamber, the alien commander whispered the word again, almost like a curse. Human. And at that moment, every being in the galaxy understood one truth. They had expected an army. What they got was something far worse. They got a human ship. And the war had just begun. The fleet of the Galactic Alliance hung in silence. Thousands of warships drifted in formation, their weapons still hot from the storm of fire they had unleashed. But the battlefield was quiet now. Too quiet. On the central command deck of the lead dreadnought, the alien commander stared at the screen. His eyes were wide, his mouth dry. He could not believe what he saw. The human ship still lived. It floated calmly in the blackness of space, its battered hull glowing faintly from shield energy. Not a single scar marked its armor. Not a single system was damaged. It was as if the fire of 1,000 cannons had been nothing but rain falling on stone. The commander felt a chill crawl through his body. This is impossible, one of his officers whispered. No ship can survive that. But the proof was right in front of them. Across the system, in every fleet, in every command center, shock spread like wildfire. Soldiers who had been laughing minutes ago now stood frozen in silence. Pilots who had been eager to fight now tightened their grips on their controls. Fear was growing. And the humans still said nothing. The alien fleets tried again. Signals poured across the void, requests, demands, threats. Identify your purpose. You are surrounded. Surrender your ship. You cannot win. The humans answered with silence. On board the human ship, the crew worked quietly. Their screens flickered with alien messages. But no one reached for the comms. They had no reason to speak. Their orders were clear. Let the enemy doubt, let the enemy fear. The captain stood at the center of the bridge, calm as stone. His voice was quiet but steady. Hold course. Do not respond. The crew nodded. They trusted him. They trusted the plan. The silence was worse than any weapon. The aliens began to imagine things. Was the ship hiding a new technology? Was it cloaked in some secret power? Was it bait for a hidden fleet waiting in the shadows? The commander tried to steady his voice. Send a boarding party. I want answers. Shuttles launched from the alien carriers, sleek and armed with the best soldiers the Alliance could offer. They moved toward the human ship cautiously, like predators circling prey. But prey usually ran. The human ship did not run. The shuttles approached, weapons ready. They scanned for defenses. Nothing. They expected traps. None appeared. The human ship simply drifted forward, silent and calm, like it was inviting them closer. Inside the human ship, the crew watched the approaching blips on their screens. No fear. Only quiet focus. The captain raised a hand. Let them come. The first shuttle touched down on the ship's outer hull. Soldiers in armored suits prepared to cut their way in. Their commander barked orders, his voice full of arrogance. Stay sharp. They're hiding something. The torch ignited. Sparks flew. The hull groaned. And then, nothing. The torch stopped. The soldiers stepped back in confusion. The metal refused to break. Their strongest cutters barely scratched it. The human hull was harder than anything they had faced. Panic spread through the boarding party. They tried again and again, but the ship did not open. It would not let them in. Inside, the human captain watched with cold eyes. They will learn soon enough. Suddenly, the human ship moved. Not fast. Not violent. Just a single, slow roll across the void. The boarding shuttles, still latched to the hull, were ripped away by the shift in momentum. They spun helplessly into space, their soldiers shouting in terror as they lost contact. The alien fleets erupted with noise. Commanders shouted. Officers panicked. Systems lit with warnings. But the human ship kept rolling, slow and graceful, like it was dancing. And then it stopped. Its weapons powered on for the first time. They were not many. A few cannons, a few launchers. Nothing compared to the mountains of firepower the alien fleets carried. But when the ship fired, everything changed. The first shot was not aimed at a warship. It was aimed at a drone satellite far from the main fleet. One blast of energy, and the satellite vanished in a flash of light. The second shot followed, hitting another drone. Then another. In seconds, half the alien sensor network was blind. The fleets roared with confusion. Their maps broke apart, their data feeds collapsed. Thousands of ships, built to fight in perfect order, now struggled in chaos. The alien commander shouted for calm. It is just one ship. Regroup. Regroup. But it was not just one ship anymore. It was one ship moving like 10, striking like a ghost. It fired at targets no one expected, vanishing from predicted paths, dancing between formations with impossible precision. The aliens had numbers. They had power. But the humans had something else. They had unpredictability. Inside the ship, the captain gave quiet orders. His crew followed with perfect discipline. No wasted words, no wasted fire. Every move was chosen to confuse, to weaken, to terrify. And it worked. Alien fleets began to hold back. Some captains refused to advance. Some even pulled away, afraid of the strange human vessel. Fear spread faster than any weapon. The commander of the dreadnought slammed his fist against the table. His voice shook with anger and fear. This is not war. This is madness. On the human ship, the captain allowed himself the smallest of smiles. He had seen this before. He knew the truth the aliens could not yet accept. Madness was humanity's greatest weapon. The human ship slowed, drifting into the orbit of the contested planet. Thousands of alien eyes watched, waiting for the next move. The silence returned, heavy and sharp. Then, for the first time, the humans spoke. The captain's voice echoed across the fleets, calm and certain. We are here. Do not worry. The words were simple, but in that moment they sounded like a promise or a threat. And the galaxy began to wonder. If one ship could do this, what would happen if an army ever followed? They expected an army. Humanity sent a single ship instead. The words of the human captain still echoed across the system. We are here. Do not worry. Simple words. Too simple. And yet, they carried a weight that no threat could match. In the command chambers of the Galactic Alliance fleets, fear grew like fire in dry grass. Soldiers whispered to each other. Officers shifted uneasily in their seats. The silence of the human ship, the calm voice, the impossible survival, it was breaking them. The alien commander tried to push away the unease. He stood tall, his voice sharp. They are only one ship. They are playing with us. We will break them. But deep inside, even he felt doubt. The human ship drifted in orbit around the planet. Its engines pulsed softly. Its weapons were quiet. On the surface, it looked weak, ordinary. But every move it made was deliberate. Every silence was chosen. On board the ship, the crew worked with discipline. The captain studied the holographic displays. Alien fleets surrounded them like a storm, but his face showed no fear. He spoke quietly, his words calm and measured. "Begin the pattern." The crew nodded. Their fingers danced across the controls. Moments later, small objects drifted out of the human ship. At first, the aliens thought they were debris, scraps from an old hull, broken panels, trash. No one cared. But then the debris moved with purpose. Tiny drones, disguised as junk. They spread into the void, invisible to scanners, crawling into positions across the battlefield. One by one, they latched onto alien ships, attaching to sensor arrays, comm relays, and weapon ports. The aliens never noticed. And then, confusion began. A battleship reported phantom readings, enemy fleets where none existed. A cruiser's weapons refused to fire, its systems frozen by false data. Another ship suddenly spun off course, its navigation scrambled. The fleets broke formation. Order turned to chaos. The alien commander slammed his fists on the table. "Report. What is happening?" His officers scrambled. None could give a clear answer. Some claimed the humans were jamming signals. Others insisted cloaked fleets were attacking. Fear made the lies stronger. But in truth, it was only the drones. Small, simple, effective. A trick. The commander roared in anger. "One ship cannot do this. It is impossible." Yet the evidence was there. Thousands of ships, built for war, now danced like puppets with cut strings. Inside the human ship, the captain allowed himself a faint smile. His voice was steady. "They expect power. We give them confusion." The crew worked silently, sending false signals through the drones. Ghost fleets appeared on alien radars. Warnings of impossible attacks filled their comms. The aliens fired blindly into the void, wasting ammunition against enemies that were not real. Panic spread. Ships collided. Orders contradicted each other. The great fleets of the Alliance, armies that had conquered 100 worlds, were crumbling under the weight of shadows. The humans had not fired a single shot. On the command deck of the dreadnought, the alien commander felt his throat tighten. He could not show fear, not in front of his soldiers. But he knew the truth. His fleets were losing control not to weapons but to the human mind. They are fighting with tricks," an officer whispered. The commander's voice shook with fury. "No, they are fighting with madness." The words were true. Madness, that was humanity's gift. Inside their ship, the captain spoke again. "They fight with rules. We fight with freedom. That is why they will lose." His crew nodded. They understood. They were not stronger. They were not many. But they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was the deadliest weapon in war. The human ship moved again. Slowly, deliberately. It did not run. It did not charge. It weaved through the chaos with grace, dodging fire that was never meant for it, sliding past warships that were too busy fighting shadows to see the real enemy. Every movement made the aliens doubt more. Was it luck? Was it skill? Or something beyond reason? The alien commander's voice finally broke. "Retreat!" The order echoed through the fleets. Ships pulled back, still firing blindly, still terrified. They had the numbers, they had the power, but they had no heart left to fight. And all the while, the humans said nothing. The ship continued its slow dance, drones spreading further, feeding more lies into the alien networks. With every passing moment, the Alliance fleets became weaker, not stronger. Inside the ship, the crew finally broke their silence. A young officer spoke softly. "Captain, how long until they realize the truth?" The captain's eyes stayed on the stars. His voice was calm. "They already know. That is why they are afraid." The young officer frowned. "But they still outnumber us. What if they regroup?" The captain finally turned, his expression sharp, his voice like steel. "Then we remind them again. They think war is numbers. We will show them war is mind." The crew nodded. Confidence filled the room. Not arrogance, but quiet belief. They had chosen this fight. They would see it through. Far away, in the Alliance's High Council, leaders argued. Some demanded retreat. Some demanded full attack. None agreed. For the first time in centuries, the mighty alliance could not decide what to do. And all because of one human ship. In the end, silence returned to the battlefield. The alien fleets held back, unsure, broken by fear and confusion. The human ship floated in orbit, calm and unshaken. A single predator among a herd too terrified to move. The captain's voice echoed one last time, carried across the void to every listening ear. You expected strength. You expected armies. Instead, you found us. Remember this day. The transmission ended, and the galaxy understood the truth. One ship had fought thousands without firing a true battle. One ship had turned an armada into chaos. One ship had shown the madness of humanity. And the war was only beginning. The fleets of the Galactic Alliance floated in silence, scattered and broken by fear. Ghost readings still haunted their scanners. Lies still whispered in their comms. The human ship drifted in orbit of the contested planet, calm, silent, untouchable. But the humans were not finished. On the bridge of the lone ship, the crew waited. Their eyes flickered over displays filled with alien movements. The captain stood at the center, hands clasped behind his back, his face calm as stone. He spoke at last. It is time. The crew moved as one. Switches were pulled, codes entered, hidden systems unlocked. For hours they had fought only with shadows and tricks. Now the true strike would begin. From beneath the ship's hull, compartments opened. Small pods slipped into the void, almost invisible against the black of space. To the alien scanners, they looked like drifting wreckage. To the humans, they were soldiers. Each pod carried a team, silent, waiting, armed with tools of war. The pods fell toward the planet. The alien fleets did not notice at first. They were too busy fighting ghosts, chasing false fleets across the stars. By the time they saw the pods, it was too late. The pods had already cut through the atmosphere, streaking down like falling stars. On the surface of the planet, alien troops prepared for war. Armored divisions waited. Batteries of cannons lined the hills. The ground shook with the march of endless soldiers. The planet had become a fortress. And yet, from the sky, only a few streaks of light fell. The defenders looked up in confusion. This was not the invasion they had expected. The first pod crashed into the ground. Its metal shell burst open, and humans stepped out. Small in number, fragile compared to the towering aliens. But their eyes burned with fire. Their movements were sharp, efficient, fearless. The aliens laughed at first. This is their attack? A handful of humans? But the laughter ended quickly. The humans carried devices that were not weapons in the usual sense. They planted them in the ground on walls near enemy machines. Silent beacons invisible to alien eyes. Within minutes, the battlefield was seeded. And then the planet itself turned against its defenders. Systems failed. Power grids collapsed. Alien cannons refused to fire, their circuits fried by human signals. Tanks froze mid-step, their engines locked. Communications filled with static. The fortress crumbled from within. The alien soldiers panicked. Some fired wildly into the darkness. Others fled. But the humans moved like shadows, striking fast, disappearing faster. They were few, but they made the enemy feel surrounded, hunted. Above the planet, the human ship shifted its orbit. The captain's eyes narrowed as signals came in from the surface. His voice was steady. Activate the grid. From the pods and beacons on the ground, energy surged upward. Invisible threads connected with the ship. Together, they formed a web of control, a network that wrapped around the planet like a net. Alien ships in orbit began to shake. Their systems went dark. One by one, their shields collapsed, their weapons died. It was not brute force, it was precision, sabotage made perfect. The commander of the Alliance fleet roared in fury. They are using the planet itself. Shut them down. But he was too late. The human ship fired. Not at the fleet. Not at the soldiers. But at key points on the surface where the beacons directed the energy. Each shot spread through the network, amplified by the planet's own systems. Explosions ripped across alien defenses. Power stations erupted. Factories crumbled. The mighty fortress world was undone by its own machines. The commander watched in horror as his fleets fell apart. His soldiers screamed in confusion. His fortress planet burned. And all of it came from one ship, one plan, one human mind. "This is madness," he whispered. On the ground, human soldiers pressed forward. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but the enemy no longer fought as an army. They fought as scattered groups, broken and leaderless. And against humans, that was never enough. One soldier planted a beacon near a massive alien walker. The machine froze, its weapons silent. The soldier looked up at the towering giant and smiled. Then the beacon detonated, and the walker fell in flames. Another team slipped into a command bunker. The aliens inside screamed, but the humans did not fire. They simply cut the power, leaving the bunker in total darkness. Fear did the rest. Above, the human captain gave the final order. His voice was calm, almost soft. "Strike now." The ship's main cannon fired once. A single shot. It cut through the atmosphere into the heart of the alien command structure on the surface. The explosion lit the sky, bright as a rising sun. And just like that, the battle ended. The alien fleets pulled back. The soldiers on the ground surrendered or fled. The fortress planet, once thought unbreakable, had fallen to a single ship and a handful of humans. On the bridge of the human ship, the crew sat in silence. The captain looked out at the stars, his face unreadable. He knew the battle was not the war, but he also knew the message had been sent. They expected an army. What they got was far worse. They got humanity, and humanity had only begun to fight. The battle for the fortress world was over. Alien fleets retreated into the darkness, broken and afraid. On the surface, silence spread across shattered defenses. Smoke rose from dead machines, bunkers lay in ruins, and the once proud armies of the Galactic Alliance had fallen. All of it defeated by a single human ship and a handful of soldiers. But the war was not finished. The humans were not here only to win a battle. They were here to send a message. Inside the human ship, the crew moved quietly, their faces calm but tired. They had fought against impossible numbers and survived. Yet none celebrated. They knew this was only the beginning. The captain stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes fixed on the planet below. His voice was low. "Prepare the link. It is time to speak with them." Moments later, a signal reached the remnants of the Alliance fleet. It was not a demand. It was not a threat. It was an invitation. The alien commander, beaten but alive, hesitated. His pride screamed against it, but his fleet was broken, his soldiers scattered. He could not refuse. And so, for the first time, the leaders of the Galactic Alliance faced the humans directly. A great hall was set up in the ruins of the fortress planet's capital. Alien generals, admirals, and counselors gathered, their voices hushed, their faces grim. At the far end of the hall, the humans entered. There were not many of them. A small group, led by their captain. No heavy armor, no grand weapons. Just simple uniforms and steady eyes. The aliens were shocked. They had expected monsters, giants, or some new kind of machine. Instead, they saw fragile beings, shorter, thinner, almost weak compared to their own kind. But their eyes burned like fire. The alien commander could not hold back his anger. He stood and shouted, "How? How can one ship do this? How can so few bring down what we built for centuries?" The human captain stepped forward. His voice was calm, quiet, but it carried through the hall like thunder. "You lost because you believed war is numbers. You believed victory is found only in size, in power, in strength. That is your mistake." The aliens muttered angrily, but the captain continued. "War is not only ships and soldiers. War is mind. War is heart. War is the will to fight when reason says you should already be defeated." The commander's eyes narrowed. "You fight with madness. You do not follow rules." The captain gave a faint smile. "Exactly." The hall grew silent. The captain's voice grew stronger. "You plan your wars like equations. predictable, perfect. But we humans, we are chaos. We are not bound by rules, not by logic, not by fear. One ship, one soldier, one mind, that is enough to change everything. You saw it with your own eyes. The aliens shifted uneasily. Some looked away, ashamed. Others glared with hatred. The captain stepped closer, his eyes locked on the alien commander. You asked how we did this. The truth is simple. We fight because we must. Because surrender is not in our nature. Because even when there is no chance, we create one. The alien commander spat the words. That is insanity. The human captain nodded slowly. Yes, and that is why you lost. The hall fell into silence again. One of the younger alien officers, shaken but curious, finally asked in a softer tone. But why send only one ship? Why not bring your armies? Why risk everything on so little? The human captain looked at him with steady eyes. Because you needed to learn. You needed to see with your own eyes that numbers mean nothing against will. You expected an army. If we had sent one, you would have called it power. You would have said we won because we were strong. But now, he spread his hands slowly. Now you know the truth. One ship was enough. One ship was too much. The aliens whispered among themselves. The idea shook them. For all their fleets, for all their weapons, they had been undone by the very thing they did not understand, humanity's refusal to fight by the rules of others. The captain's final words echoed like steel. Remember this. Humanity does not fight wars to prove strength. We fight because we refuse to be broken. And when you face us again, know this, whether it is one ship, one army, or one person, we will stand. And we will win. Silence filled the hall. The alien commander stared at the human captain. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never felt toward another species. Not fear, not hatred, respect. He lowered his head slowly, and the galaxy realized something it had never believed before. Humanity was not the weakest race. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was something far more dangerous. They were unstoppable. The fortress planet lay in ruins. Smoke curled into the sky, drifting over shattered bunkers and broken machines. The once proud armies of the Galactic Alliance had been defeated. Their fleets retreated into the stars, leaving behind silence and shame. All of it done by one human ship. In the great hall of the ruined capital, the meeting between humans and aliens had ended. The words of the human captain still echoed in the minds of every commander present. Whether it is one ship, one army, or one person, we will stand. And we will win. The alien leaders left the hall in silence. No one spoke. No one dared to. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. Humanity was not like the others. Humanity was something different. Something dangerous. Back aboard the human ship, the crew worked in calm order. Repairs were made. Drones were recovered. Soldiers who had fought on the surface returned, tired but alive. There was no celebration. Humans did not celebrate too soon. They knew the war was not over. The captain stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. His crew waited, watching him. Finally, he spoke. Message to command. Objective complete. Fortress broken. Alliance shaken. Awaiting next orders. The words were simple, but they carried weight. The fortress planet had been meant to be untouchable. His fall would echo across the galaxy. And that was the true victory. Not the planet itself, not the broken fleets, but the fear. The Galactic Alliance had learned something they would never forget. Humanity was not measured by numbers. Humanity was measured by will. Far away, in the hidden chambers of the Alliance, leaders argued in panic. Some demanded vengeance. Some demanded peace. But none could agree. Their greatest fleets had failed. Their fortress had fallen. And their enemy had been only one ship. One. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Traitors spoke of the humans with awe. Soldiers spoke of them with fear. To some, they became a warning. To others, a legend. And legends are more powerful than any fleet. On the human ship, the young officer finally asked the question that weighed on every mind. Captain, what now? The captain's eyes stayed on the stars. His face was calm, his voice steady. Now we wait. They will strike again. And when they do, we will be ready. The officer hesitated. Do you think they will fear us? The captain gave the faintest of smiles. They already do. And that is enough. Fear is a weapon too. The ship turned slowly, engines burning bright against the black. It moved away from the ruined planet, vanishing into the endless void. Behind it, the fortress world smoldered in silence. Ahead of it, the stars stretched forever. The war was not finished. Humanity was only beginning. Across the galaxy, stories spread. Stories of the single ship. Stories of the humans who fought with madness and courage. Stories of a captain who spoke softly but carried the weight of an army. Alien children heard the stories and shivered. Alien generals heard them and cursed. But deep down, everyone understood the same truth. They had expected an army. What they got was worse. They got humanity, and humanity was coming.